Hello, everybody. This is Anthony Bjorns from Mission Star Podcast, and we have another episode of the Conover. But specifically, this is the 100th episode of the Conover. Made it, guys. 100 episodes.
Damn.
100 episodes.
Yeah, we made it. So as you can hear, I am joined tonight by two of the Rolling 20s crew, Jeremy Wilson and Jussie.
Yeah, Sim Salabim.
Hola.
And they're here to talk about LA Comic Con, one's name, Kamikaze. That happened about, let's see, today is the 17th, so I say
About 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So first off, when did, I think the first thing to just go off the bat, like when did they make that change between going from Kamikaze to just straight up LA Comic Con?
That would have been like, I want to say July or August of this year. It was relatively...
I thought it was later than that.
I don't think it was September because there was a lot of time to soak it in, and August was only about 2 months before the con.
Right. Okay. My scale of time is way off.
I mean, I know it wasn't July because, we were still in the throes of San Diego, and nothing had come out about it until after we were well done, settled, and everything was up.
I see. Okay. So in terms of, now the newly named LA Comic Con, so what were some of the things you noticed this year that were different from last year, as far as like anything between the attendees, the mood, the way that this structure was for the Comic Con this year than last year?
I
in
think
one hall this time?
Yeah, they actually took over all of South Hall instead of spreading it in among the two halls. There wasn't near as much walking to get stuff done, thankfully.
Okay, cool.
I would say the attendance perked up a bit. It's definitely hitting solid mid-size convention, somewhere between, I'd say, 45 to 55,000 people, easy. It was much busier in the lobby, but that may have been because it actually rained during certain periods of the weekend.
Yeah.
So that was a little unusual for LA. But, as far as structure-wise, it's kind of astonishing that a convention that changes its name to anything that involves the word Comic-Con felt like it had a lot less to do with comic books.
Interesting. So what was it? I mean, well, can you go on more about that, or?
Well, the exhibit hall had... I'm sorry, I'm getting an echo of myself or something.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, I am trying to fix the issue here. But go on. Well,
it's a little weird to hear me. Let's see. First of all, I'd say the exhibit hall didn't have near as many comic book vendors as a Comic-Con ought to have. I was walking with Jesse at one point, and we made our way towards the middle of the hall, and I noticed that on my route, I'd only seen 3 comic book vendors up to that point. The rest were, pop culture items mostly. A little bit of clothiers, a lot of memorabilia vendors, some toy vendors, but not a lot of comic book vendors. It felt kind of odd in that respect.
Well, I still want to argue that the change in name is still short notice, that they were still a pop culture con until, 3 months prior to it launching?
They weren't a pop culture con before. When they were Kamikaze, they were solidly a comic book convention.
I thought they have always advertised as a pop culture convention.
No, man. The first year, it was kind of small, but comic books were definitely the big draw, including most of the major guests of honor. The last 3 or 4 years, Stan Lee's name was added to it, and Elvira was one of the co-hosts. But still, primarily, comic books were the big draw across the way. This year, though, they removed several big staples, like the Stan Lee Museum. They also removed a lot of the exhibit hall and replaced it with Artist Alley. And then they also, I know Elvira is gone, but that's not really part of the conversation. Hot Topic has had an increasing presence at these conventions. So it really feels like pop culture's taken over, especially when they start calling themselves LA Comic Con. The first couple of years, the major guests of honor were like Todd McFarlane and J. Scott Campbell. And this year, only about two or three of the guests of honor actually had to do with deep ties to the comic book industry itself.
Interesting. So, in regards to and I hear myself. If you hear some weird stuff going on, so I'm adjusting the audio as I speak.
Okay.
Bear with us. Anyways, so regarding it seems that you're going in that pop culture kind of direction. I can only imagine that the people who were there for a number of reasons. I could imagine, were the cosplays kind of showing that as well, like less of the comic book, but more of the pop culture?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say definitely so. Some of the bigger, obviously two of the big gatherings were Marvel and DC, but there was a bunch of sub-gatherings that had some size to them, including Overwatch. So there was a lot going on that was outside the realm of comic books.
Okay. Gotcha. Hang on. Oops, sorry. Okay. So, interesting. So in that regard, what were some of the other things you also noticed this year at LA Comic Con?
Let me see. I guess I would say, maybe Jesse can agree with me, the exhibit hall was more normal. Usually the exhibit hall or dealer's hall is one of the standout things at LA Comic Con, but this year it was just kind of usual, I would say, for conventions going on in the LA Convention Center.
Yeah, it was kind of a meh experience.
Yeah. Security gave us a little more leeway to stand in the lobby, but they still didn't like it when you gathered anywhere inside the lobby. They tended to push you away from stairs really fast.
It's standard fare for that convention. Convention center.
Yeah, we were. It was kind of funny because we were standing far back in the photographers during the Overwatch gathering, and Jesse, myself, and another photographer were standing back there. And as soon as they gathered everybody by the stairs and said, "We're going to use these stairs for photos," we just kind of looked at each other and said, "I'd say the over/under is 12 minutes. What do you got?" 15 minutes. Oh, I'd say 10.
That's hilarious.
And Jesse won at 15.
Funny. I think that is there any cosplay? Whoa, that's weird.
Well, it's kind of sad because the building is well situated for a few different like mid to large size gatherings, but unless you're in a few specific locations, security is fast to push you away.
They're more inclined to keep the line moving than anything else, correct?
Oh, it's not even the line. I mean, you could be far out of the way of anything centrally going on, but if you're still indoors, they don't like you.
Oh, wow. Okay. Gotcha. Wow. Okay. So, interesting. So what were some of the things that stood out to you at this convention than last year? What were the things that when you think of LA Comic Con, like what's the first thing that comes to mind?
A lack of things to do. I'm sorry. I really like this con, but yeah.
He kind of put it together in a sentence, man. There was a serious lack of industry involvement in the convention this year. The only comic companies to show up were Top Cow and actually Top Cow was the only comic company to show up with a booth that I can remember. Even some of the independent places like Lion Forge and Boom Studios decided, this isn't big enough, or at least we don't want to do this. And the convention was mostly geared with fan-based panels. There was only one or two like major panels that had industry talent, and for the most part, that was like Kevin Smith and Ralph Garman. They had Adam West and Burt Ward on for a live taping of one of their own podcasts. And other than that, the panel list was just kind of the same stuff you could find at a small-size anime convention for the most part.
I wonder if they had trouble booking some people to come to the con maybe.
There were
In previous years.
I don't know if maybe last year and some of the organizational issues decided to make some people stay away as far as industry and entertainers, or I don't know if maybe just the change in name was enough to confuse people. But it definitely felt like a lot of the stalwarts that usually go to the show were nowhere to be found.
Interesting.
But
Very interesting.
well, I mean, it didn't hurt the attendance any. The attendance was fine, but I don't know. The dealers hall didn't feel as packed as it has in the last few years, so it didn't feel like people were shopping. The lobby was kind of busy, but that could have been for various reasons. You know, it almost felt like LA Comic-Con was an excuse for people just to kind of gather and not do much beyond that.
Interesting. So it was more or less interesting. So it's more or less of, you know, things to check out at the con or buy stuff, and more of, hey, let's gather
And do stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and do stuff.
Yeah, and they actually made a big organizational misstep this year that was kind of new for us.
That is.
They've been charging approximately the same price for badges for the last few years. You know, it's gone up a bit, but nothing really unbelievable, right? For a 3-day convention. The first day, for some reason, the only thing that was open was the exhibit hall, and that only was from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Yeah, that was surprising. I think I understand why, but why?
I don't understand why, if you're going to charge the same approximate price as you charged last year, if you're taking away literally 1/6 of the convention.
Interesting.
And, you know, nothing else was open, which means once we were done with the exhibit hall, we couldn't wander to tabletop, we couldn't wander into panel rooms because nothing else was open. So
When did they open officially, or when did they open at the con?
that was Friday, October 28th, and that is the third of a day I'm telling you about. They only opened the exhibit hall from 5 to 9. It may have been 4 to 9, but I'm pretty sure it was 5, and that was it.
That's interesting.
You know, nothing on the main stage, nothing in any panel rooms, nothing in any entertainment rooms. All you could do for the first afternoon was take photos or shop.
So basically, Friday was.
A wash.
Yeah, was it the same case for the other 2 days, or was there more stuff to do as the days went on?
There was
There
more
were panels running on the other 2 days.
Yep. Everything was open the other 2 days, which just made the whole thing even more confusing from our standpoint.
Okay.
And the only thing I will say was that opening that late in the day, yeah, the vendors were definitely ready. They definitely spent the morning into the afternoon setting their stuff up, and everything was up and ready to go, which was cool. It's just, by the time we were done looking around, we just kind of stared at each other and said, so, dessert?
Wow, interesting. Okay. So then, well, how much were the badges for the full weekend?
Memory serves a full weekend was $60.
$60. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that badge? I mean, obviously, you know, full disclosure, we're press, so we get press badges. We attend these at conventions to cover, but like, you know, for an attendee, like, do you think $60 would be worth for a weekend at LA Comic Con?
Yes.
Jesse?
I think so. But
I would have to say no. Jesse, you go first. I want to hear, man. Go for it.
The only thing I can really compare to is other smaller conventions I've gone to, which charge roughly the same amount. And comparatively, LA Comic Con is still a much bigger experience for $60. Maybe a boring experience, but still a bigger experience.
Okay. I would argue that WonderCon right now sits at about $60, and you get a minimum of 6 hours more worth of convention, bigger companies to go stare at, some bigger variety of convention exclusives, and a good mix of both fan and industry talent showing up.
Right, definitely. If I was an attendee, if I was going and I was paying $60 to go to a convention, and you know there was not much going on, Um, man, to kind of temper my expectations, I'm not quite sure where I would go by. It all depends on everybody's experience. Like not everybody's gonna have the same experience as we do or I do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if I go hang out with friends that weekend, it was great. That's fine. Hey, that $60 was worth it. But just purely on the basis of being an attendee, just like be introduced to everything that this convention can offer. I have to side with Jeremy on this one. I think that $60 isn't bad. $60 is not bad. I think that in the realm of prices for badges and convention, and as far as we know, like $60 is not a bad price.
For the size of the convention, it's good. For the size of the entertainment, I don't think you're getting your money's worth.
I can agree with that.
I mean, I guess a good cross example I could give is in a couple of weeks, the rest of the Rolling 20s and I've got to go to Great American Comic Con in Vegas. That's a 2-day show, 2 solid days of convention at $35 for the whole weekend. And at least there, it may not be a huge show, but at least there you got a chance to really buy some comic books from local vendors as well as like check out a bunch of Silver Age industry people. In addition to like, the occasional wrestler and TV and movie person and all this other stuff. You got a mix of stuff. At LA Comic Con, I didn't feel like there was a lot by the way of actual comic books happening.
Interesting. Do you think in the future, because we've seen this with Comic Con, I mean, there is still a comic book section, given it's small, but do you think, at least for LA Comic Con, do you think that in the future it will become like a Comic Con to where you see very little comic books and much more other things?
In defense of San Diego, it is more of a pop culture convention these days, but at least there is a serious comic book contingent. There's a large section laid out that is just for Silver and Golden Age comics, another section for general comics, and there's another section that is just industry talent as far as Artist Alley. That's the only thing they allow. LA Comic Con has a few things going against it if they want to become like San Diego. One, if they're going to go pop culture, they got to get people who aren't just co-starring in TV shows. They didn't have, other than Burt Ward and Adam West, they didn't really have one person on the roster of guests that starred in a show. Just a bunch of people who were also on this show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Secondly, they've almost entirely eschewed comic books, and I don't think it was a purposeful thing. They may have just taken whoever signed up first, but they didn't really do any work balancing out the exhibitors in the hall, so you had a good selection of things to roll through. And then even in Artist Alley, I only found 3 actual industry artists in a section that took up like a fifth or a sixth of the hall. Period. And one of them was only there on Sunday.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay. Oops. Just hit my mic.
And I understand there's a lot of people who just go to the convention to see people. If that's what you want to do, LA Comic Con is as good as any. But at the same time, trying to review and rate these things, I think it's important to have at least some of the industry that made you, or at least makes the medium you advertise yourself to be all about at your show.
Right. Definitely. Okay. So in regards to other aspects of the convention, specifically we're talking about the panels that were being that were happening there at the con. Any particular panels that you checked out when you were there?
The Luke Cage panel.
Yeah, we did see Mike Coulter at the main stage. And that man,
energy.
Yeah, he is surprisingly hyped. If you've watched the Cage show, Coulter has this measured, slow, very commanding presence on that show.
Mm-hmm.
Him sitting on that stage, he looked like he was about to geek out. And I was joking with Jesse, man. I don't know. It seems like there's just something really going on with Mike Coulter. Like he just really can't calm himself down, or maybe he just needs to go to the bathroom and get a bump.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Cool. So like, Like I think I might have saw some clips out of that from the Instagram. So yeah.
It was cool. It was cool to see, and Stan Lee, of course, made a surprise appearance, and Coulter seemed like just as surprised as everybody else. It's a good thing he didn't hold that mic up to his mouth, because there might have been something close to an expletive or a sweet Christmas flying out of his mouth when the guy came up on the stage.
That's great. That's awesome.
Although there was one question somebody decided to ask it, or somebody said to him that, God, his response was funny because there was a girl who got the Q&A mic.
Right, yeah.
And she said, I thought you looked really good in Luke Cage. And he interrupted her and just said, I never know how to respond to that, because what does that mean? Does that mean I don't look good now, or I only look good on TV? How the heck am I supposed to respond to that?
Damn. That's hilarious. Wow. Yeah, man, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. He seems like a very cool dude, from what I've seen and heard. So
yeah, he's one of those few nerds that seems to have earned his "Dost Thou Lift" T-shirt.
Nice, awesome. Cool. So one of the things that I think that it's a convention, and in doing so, like, we carry somewhat of money, whether it be for food or whatnot. But out of curiosity, did you happen to buy anything at LA Comic Con?
I did. I bought two items, which is just about the least I've bought outside of an anime expo. I bought I hear myself again.
Oh, sorry. Don't mind me in the background.
Jeez.
Stuff.
I bought a Kotobukiya Now Rogue to round out the set of Uncanny X-Men I've been pulling from the Kotobukiya line there. I'm only missing one of the ones I need left. And I also bought a Kotobukiya Marvel Bishoujo Spider-Gwen. I did not know that was out.
Sick. Awesome. I didn't know that out either. That's awesome.
Oh, it even comes with an alternative head. There's one with her unmasked, and there's another one with the hood and the mask up. So I was pleasantly surprised that was out.
Nice, man. I love their figures. They're so good. I actually had my uncle buy one recently too, man. It's so good.
Well, I'm a little bit disappointed because I know I'm going to lose $180 to that line, because they announced Lady Thor and Lady Loki with bases that fit together. So I'm just like, cool. But of course, they also bumped the price when they came out with those.
That's awesome. Wow, that's really cool though. Cool, awesome. Jesse, what about you? Did you buy anything, or did you do some window shopping?
I kind of recall two things I bought. One was old Transformers figure from like 5 or 6 years ago that I missed out on.
That classifies as old. You and I were there when these things came out, dude.
I know.
Way back in 1984.
And another thing I bought was a chocolate D20.
What? Really? Why did you not show me this last weekend? That'd been awesome to see.
Yeah, that was kind of funny because we stopped at this one place, and I remember stopping in front of the booth, and Jesse and Steve look at me like I'm deranged. I'm just like, dude, look, chocolate. And they look down at all these things, and they're just, no, it's not. I said, yeah, dude, confectionery. Look, they made all this stuff. Look, an old Nest controller out of pure chocolate. And the ladies in front of us just started striking up a conversation. They said, ooh, look, 3 fat people. They'll buy something. So,
oh, damn.
So they made sure to strike up conversations with each of us, both in groups and separately, trying to pressure us to buy different stuff.
That's great.
And finally, I just kind of laughed, and I said, look, dude, it's us. And I held up this large dark chocolate D20. And Jesse just says, oh, I would never eat that. He said, really? I'm trying not to eat sugar, and I would eat this. He says, yeah, I hate dark chocolate. You got that in milk?
Nice.
They said yes.
Oh, yeah, they started digging, dude. Wow. And it was even funnier because the second night at the hotel, we're just chilling out. Finally, we're getting ready to record, and Jesse's like, hey, I need to eat this thing. He starts eating it, and he just says, oh. And I said, what? He said, that rattling wasn't one D20 inside. I said, well, what was it? It was like a whole set of chocolate dice. It's like, oh, shit, really?
Wow. That's hilarious. My question, did you roll that D20 before you eat it, or?
It was a critical fail that fell in his mouth.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we'll go with that.
All right.
It was one of those things where, like I said, I'm trying not to eat a whole lot of heavy sweets these days, but I was tempted to go back to that booth and pick up a couple items just because it was funny.
Wow, that seems interesting, man. I would love to see. I'd love to see that, man.
It was pretty self-defeating, though, because every time I looked at something, he said, dude, look, Stormtrooper head. She just said, yeah, that's white chocolate with cookie crumbles. Okay. Hey, check this out. It's a Triforce. Yeah, that's milk chocolate with a little bit of gold confectionery paint on it. Okay. Wow, what is this? She said, ooh, you'll like that. That's red velvet. Okay, stop trying, all right? This is hard enough.
Oh man, that's great. Oh, that's awesome. Cool. Okay. In regards to of the cosplays, I know you're working on a photo shoot you did during the con.
Oh, no, I'm not working on it. That's up.
Oh, it's up. Oh, wait, all right, cool.
I snuck that by you like a week ago.
Hey, so by the time this goes up, you'll see a new photo gallery. Yeah, awesome. I was gonna say, speaking of photo shoots and all that stuff, what were some of the cosplays that stood out to you guys during that weekend?
There was a Sailor McCree.
Oh, sick.
And the only other one that really stood out to me was a Western Boba Fett.
Western Boba Fett.
Yeah, like Old West, just of this Old West style. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
No, he was talking about Democratic Boba Fett. That's what he was talking about. Way out west. There was an Overwatch May cosplayer. God bless her heart. She actually had a jacket made that was like felt and down and a whole bunch of fur. She was overheating every second. It's like there was a big sweat patch in the middle. Yes, there was a big sweat patch in the middle of her back, and she would not take off that coat, man. She was working a hand fan and just, she was dying, but God bless her, she would not break it.
Wow.
You know,
That's some real dedication.
And I actually got a photo up in the gallery of her and a tracer. Both of these people look like they just jumped out of the damn screen. It was really amazing.
Nice. Awesome.
And what?
I was gonna say one thing also happened during that Overwatch shoot before they were moved from the stairs.
Yeah, and I told you have to keep your pants up.
They brought out a guy who had this gigantic Reinhardt cosplay outfit.
It's the same one that won an award to like New York Comic Con.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I think I know what you're talking about.
But he wasn't wearing it. They carted it out. It was just on a cart.
Yeah. Heralded by the voice actor for him.
Oh, nice.
He's a small man.
Yeah, that's what I've been told. Yeah, he is a small man, but man,
it was an interesting moment. But him standing next to this thing, yelling into a megaphone while the costume itself was on a cart. All I can think is, don't look at the man behind the curtain.
I recently there was a couple of videos of him during BlizzCon of him just having just a blast and just like doing the voice and then like being with the cosplayers. Like that man was just having so much fun. So yeah, I
think you would have to though, because half the time when this guy's walking around, if it wasn't for the suit vest and the odd clothes, you probably wouldn't think anything of him at a comic book convention. As soon as he opens his mouth is when people go, "Oh wait, is that really him?"
Yeah. That guy's great. That guy's awesome.
I ran into a cosplayer that most of the people on the website know, Macy. She was dressed up as Rose from freaking Steven Universe.
Oh,
she was fun. She was fun as she usually is. And cosplay was all right at the show. There wasn't a whole lot of people pushing boundaries, I would say. Think of it as a place where people were taking their already finished items, not a whole lot of experimentative items. A lot of the more daring things I saw at already seen at either San Diego Comic-Con or Long Beach Comic-Con.
Ah, I see. So it wasn't really much breakout like the best cosplay for the weekend. It was just like, I'm gonna put on a cosplay that I already made or it's already done.
Pretty much.
Like a laid back one.
Yeah, maybe it had to do with the fact that Halloween was after the convention instead of during the convention.
Yeah, that's true too.
People have been saving their bomb-ass items.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing too, though, so note that we're at the tail end of the year, and this is kind of usually a time where most conventions are winding down on the convention season. So I would imagine it's because of that, and then on top of Halloween just happened. that it equates to a laid back convention for cosplay.
Maybe, I think it also had to do. I would also say that part of that was probably also the lack of industry. You're not gonna half the reason why people dress up sometimes is to embody the characters that creators have made stand out to them. And if those creators aren't around, don't try as much.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Awesome. So in regards to,
Do you want to get back to the large scale photo shoot we put together?
oh yes, please.
Because that was my idiocy.
Oh.
It was something I set up offsite. I get frustrated sometimes because people say I want to get photos of a costume. It's like great, but you're always kind of limited depending on how far or where you are at the convention center, and half the time these places are made to look like, also was it meanwhile at the Hall of Justice and stuff like that. So it's kind of hard to get actual photos of costumes. So I convinced people to have an Avenger shoot with me off-site in an alleyway not too far from the convention center. And I even asked a couple of photographers to back me up, but of course, only one person showed, and that's because I ran into him by accident. It's like somebody else I know from Anime Expo.
Oh, gotcha.
So for the most part, it was me working by myself, and the list just before the weekend was pretty manageable, like 8 people. And then during about 2 or 3 days before the convention, that suddenly exploded into 14.
Oh, wow.
So a shoot that should have taken me about 90 minutes ended up taking about 2.5 hours.
Wow. Wait, like 14 altogether, or were they...
14 altogether, 14 individuals.
Ooh, wow.
And I put together a gallery that has a minimum of 3 to 4 shots per person, one of what I call symbology shoots, just some aspect of the character, not like their face or anything, but some defining trait where you know who it is. And a few quick group things because, unfortunately, by the time I got around to that, things were breaking down. But it's a lot of photos.
Wow, that's crazy. That is utter nonsense, but I applaud for you. I applaud for the work you've done.
Yeah, there's definitely some photos on our gallery that no one else has.
Nice. That's awesome. Good stuff. Very good stuff.
But if I can add one good story in the midst of all that, one of the last-minute additions was this tall guy I had not met prior, but he suddenly signed up at the last minute as Bruce Banner, the alter ego of the Hulk.
Yeah.
And he was good-looking, and we were taking photos, and for the last idea I had, there was this moving truck that was parked in the alley already. So I told him, okay, I want you to put your hand in the middle of the grill of this truck like you're getting ready to transform. And he just said, okay. He took off his glasses. He started gritting. He put up his hand. I snapped a few photos, and then I started laughing hysterically. He said, what's so funny? So I turned on the reviewer and my digital camera, and we looked at the screen. And because of the plastic grill in this truck, when he pushed his hand into it, it looked like the grill was giving, like he was actually transforming and about to crush this stupid thing.
That's awesome. Wow.
It was also kind of funny with the She-Hulk that showed up to the shoot because I took her aside and there was another moving truck with one of those hydraulic lifts on the back.
Mm-hmm.
It was all the way to the ground. So I took her over. I just told her stand in front of that because she's all green and it's a white backdrop. It'll look interesting. I took the photo, and as soon as I lowered the camera from my eye, you know how when you get your peripheral vision back when you're not looking through the reticle of a camera?
Yeah.
As soon as I lowered the camera, I noticed this guy with a hand truck with one of those like parking rails on it, just kind of staring at her, and I said, yeah, we'll move.
Nice. That's awesome. I think the best way to put it is just like there's always those moments when it comes to photo shoots or taking photos that either surprises you or just like, oh, hey, that just happened. Cool, awesome.
Yeah, there was a few there, and because we happened to pick an alleyway that was between 2 parking structures, oh dear God, there were so many people driving by going, oh, dude, I got to get in on that, or just some other people going, the frick is happening here?
Awesome, good stuff. Cool. So I assume those are being worked on at the moment, or no, some of them are already up on the gallery, but like...
No, they're not. I already uploaded the gallery page. All you got to do is hit publish and tell people.
Oh, no, okay, gotcha. I already did that. Just, I know you're working on photo shoots as well.
No, like I said, the photo shoot is done.
Oh, okay.
It's been done.
Okay, I got work to do then. Yeah. All right. So, by the time you're listening to this, yes, the photo shoots are up. So check it out. I'm still recovering. I'm still kind of recovering. I mean, I'm okay now, but like, man, 24 hours is not easy.
Yeah.
Sucks.
And that addiction to jogging, you really got to work your way through that.
Yeah. It's tough.
Speaking of which, that was a major problem during the weekend. Was at LA Comic-Con, for trying to become like the marquee LA comic book convention, it really wasn't treated as much by everything else going on around it. There was another event happening each day right next to the convention, making parking a damn nightmare.
Oh yeah. What was the big one?
The League of Legends World Championships was happening right next door at the Staples Center.
Oh, that was happening at the same time.
Yeah, so that meant the plaza at LA Live was completely inaccessible to us. Chick Hearns was closed just because of all the tents and stuff put up because of the League of Legends Championships. And this was on Friday before the championships actually happened on Saturday. So, it was already one of those cases where as soon as you get in the area, dude, we are the second most important thing happening this weekend. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, wow. That's crazy. And yeah, I totally forgot about that. That was a thing that was happening.
Yeah. And like I said, the parties and the social stuff happened Friday. The League of Legends Championships actually happened Saturday. And to their credit, they tore down that Vinyl Fest on Saturday night. And that's because on Sunday it was a Clippers game.
Oh.
So there was nothing happening. I mean, it's not that there was nothing happening, but all weekend you got the feeling that LA Comic-Con was kind of an afterthought to just about everything else happening during that weekend.
Oh, nice.
You know how it is at conventions. You pack in an elevator, and usually everybody else has a badge, and they're just kind of staring at you, going, "Yeah, I know where you're going." Just about every time we got into an elevator was a bunch of people looking at us, going, "Why are you here?"
Wow, that is pretty hilarious. Yeah, no, I totally forgot about that. That was the thing that was happening this past weekend.
Yeah, but
not this past weekend, but during that weekend, yeah.
Right, but that also meant parking was a pain in the butt. There was people I talked to who had a 15-minute walk to get back to their car after they were done at the convention.
Oh, lucked out on the parking though. They only charged me for 2 days instead of 3. I was like, yay,
Awesome.
yay.
Cool. In regards to, I'd assume at this point, like the usual setup for the food trucks were pretty much the same as as previous conventions in the area.
Actually, I don't think we ever crossed by that area.
Actually, it was outside South Hall where it usually was. You're right in that. There was a few more on the area behind the Sky Bridge. So there was food trucks and a couple of stands in those areas. So it was in its usual spots that were convenient. But I mean, the others I can say for sure didn't eat at the food trucks, and unfortunately I'm one of those people that tries to avoid them because, again, I've managed to lose weight and I'm kind of careful about my calorie count. So, food trucks are something that sound interesting, but I tend to avoid just because I can't guarantee what's in them.
Right, definitely. Okay.
Are we boring you?
No, it's not that.
He's still recovering from 24 hours.
Yeah, I can't lie. It's hard. But okay, cool.
You want to try recovery? You sit in Hall H all damn day.
I think I'm good. I think I'll pass on that. So, I'll let you guys do that for me.
You will never see so many sedentary people that just say, "I wish I could go outside."
So in regards to just what was due to the circumstances of those events happening around the con, what was the security or the staff like for the con? Were they what was their mood at the time?
Usual. Actually, to be honest, I had very little interaction with the con. We're talking about the convention center staff or the convention staff?
He's asking about both.
Oh.
Yeah, both.
Oh, I can say the same for both. I had very little interaction with either, since I barely did anything worth doing. Yeah, we're running this one.
Okay. So I think the one thing that needs to be mentioned, and then I think it's part of the hotel, not the hotel, but the convention experience is the hotel. Which hotel did you guys stay at?
Oh, we stayed at the Residence Inn in LA Live again.
Mm, okay. I
Their
assume
favorite go-to hotel.
nice. I'd assume that everything went well with the hotel staff and whatnot. And
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It was one of I was the one who showed up at 6:30 in the morning to check my stuff into the hotel, and I signed everything in, but I didn't get anybody that recognized me at the desk this time. So I'm just like, wow, okay, they must have hired new people. Awesome. So that morning I go downstairs because I got to go to Ralph's to pick up a few groceries for the fridge, and on my way back in is when I look behind the desk and somebody meets my eyes with me and just says, "Hey, Mr. Wilson, you're back. How you doing?" It's like, oh crap.
That's great.
And the lady next to him just says, "I checked him in. Is there a problem?" He just says, "No, this guy's always here when there's there's a convention happening, isn't there?" And just like, yeah, there is.
So the minute they see you, it's basically just like it's like Groundhog Day.
No,
It's like, oh,
not
okay.
exactly, because this guy I've seen I've been to this hotel I think 7 different times, and this guy I've seen at 4 of those visits. He's also the guy who checked me in the very first time I tried out this hotel like 3 anime expos ago. So he knows my face because I am the guy who suddenly says, "Yes, I need to check in 10 rooms," and he just looks. That's when they look up and say, "You need to what now?"
I like the fact that you measure time with conventions. So, cool, awesome. So then that just brings us to, I guess, the last part of the podcast and overall thoughts, pros and cons of LA Comic Con. Jesse, I'm gonna start with you first.
They need to get more shit in there, or else we may not come back again.
What the hell? You make it sound like a proctological exam. You got to get more in there.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse. Jeremy, your final thoughts.
I've been to this convention for the entirety of its 6 years of existence, and it is this 6th year where I am going to say something I've never said in any of these reviews. This is not a show I can recommend. I usually, even when I don't have fun at a show, I find items that I like about it and things to look forward to next year and things that I hope will be fixed. But LA Comic-Con is just a hodgepodge of stuff. And it doesn't really come together into a cohesive whole. There's not a lot of serious marquee guests outside of like 2 or 3. There's Artist Alley is bereft of industry talent. Lots of independent stuff, but if you're really there for comic books, it's not the place you want to be. There's not a lot of opportunities to buy comic books there. There's opportunities to buy all kinds of stuff you could find at a number of different conventions with better balanced exhibit halls. So, it was one of those scary moments when I talked to Steve and Jesse, like as I was packing up my stuff and getting ready to go, and I just said, if it's like this, I don't think I can come back here. And they both just kind of silently nodded. So it is not a show that any of us had a real measure of fun at. We enjoyed each other's time. We enjoyed eating out. We enjoyed talking to the people we knew. But you can do that at conventions large and small anywhere. Half the reason to go to a show is because the show is good. And while the staff were courteous and they were quick to answer things, the setup of the convention is just in such a format where there really wasn't much of anything entertaining happening. There's no good announcements. There were a few exclusives, but it really wasn't anything unusual. A few Funko Pops, T-shirts, things like that. And, a lot of the stuff you could buy if you had the opportunity or you go to enough shows, you can pick it up just about anywhere.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming on the podcast and talking everything about LA Comic Con.
Yeah.
Before we end the podcast, where can they find you guys on the internet?
Well, Jesse and I do an all-nude review.
Wow, I didn't know you guys did that. Huh.
Yeah, usually it's $4.99 a minute, but if you use a special coupon code, we'll knock that down to $2.99 a minute. No, I do a weekly podcast called The Rollin' 20s. It is up on Mission Star Podcast, iTunes, and Stitcher. I am on cosplay.com every once in a while under the screen handle of Freight. We have Instagram under The Rolling 20 Show. We have Twitter under The Rolling 20s. And we actually have an appearance in 2 weeks. The entire show is going to Great American Comic-Con. We've been invited to introduce ourselves, host panels, and we are going to be talking to people like Neil Adams and Joel Rubinstein, Bob Layton, Steve Englehart, one of the creators of Doctor Strange, is going to be there.
Really?
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of questions to ask, like a lot of different people on a lot of different subjects. And Great American Comic-Con, December 3rd and 4th at the Cashman Center in Las Vegas. You're not going to find a whole lot of modern stars. You're going to find Silver Age guys. You know, guys responsible for one of the major rises in comic books.
Cool, sick, awesome. Yeah, definitely. We'll find out more information about that in the coming weeks, or coming days at this point. But yeah, awesome. Cannot wait for you guys to go out there, have fun, and do your thing.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get a couple Silver Age artists to do a couple sketches for me while I'm out there. I'm going to have to beg, though.
Cool. Well, I bid you good luck on that. So thank you again. You can follow us all on MrStarPodcast.com. If you're listening to us, thank you for listening. This is the 100th episode of the Conover.
And yet you celebrate it with this crew of numbnuts.
Very true, very true. But yeah, like we've reached 100 episodes, and we cannot wait to do another 100 more for the Conover. So yeah, thank you guys for.
We're starting right now, episode 101. What did I eat for breakfast?
Yeah, I think that's a good start for this new season of podcast episodes. So, anyways, yeah, you can follow us on at MrStarPodcast.com. You can follow this podcast as well as our other podcasts on iTunes and Stitcher. So definitely check it out. We're Mr. Star Podcast. Was it the Conover and the Rolling 20s, which you can all find out on iTunes, Stitcher, Patreon, and at MrStarPodcast.com under the podcast section of the website. You can also follow me personally at The Fake of Naruto on Twitter. You have the Rolling 20s has their own Twitter, which is at Rolling 20s.
Yep. The Rolling 20s at The Rolling 20s.
Gotcha. Cool. And thanks. I think it's gonna about do it. So again, thank you guys who've been listening. We'll be back for another episode of the Conover. As well as many other things I'm having in the works for the site. So be on the lookout for that. But with that, I bid you guys adieu, and we will see you guys next time.
Sweet.